You think you're half the man Caleb was? She spat, eyes cold as winter steel. At least he knew how to handle me. That was it. The exact moment I realized my marriage had rotted from the inside out. I'd just spent 10 hours finalizing a business deal, only to come home and hear my wife, Olivia, throw her ex's name into my face like acid. She was wearing that red silk robe she used to say was for my eyes only. Now I couldn't help but wonder who had seen it last. I stood there in the doorway, keys still dangling in my hand. You're really going there again? I asked. She didn't even flinch, just sipped her wine and leaned against the counter like she was above it all. I'm just saying, maybe you should take notes from Caleb. He knew what a real woman needed. That smug smile, it said everything. She wanted me to break. She wanted me to raise my voice, lash out, give her a reason to play the victim. But I didn't. Not that night. Instead, I walked upstairs, packed a bag, and left without another word, just like Caleb had done to her 5 years ago. Cold, silent, final. And the best part? I left my wedding ring in the freezer, inside the same damn ice tray she used to chill her rose. The next morning, she called me 10 times. By noon, she was texting, I don't know what's wrong with you. By dinner, I got, are you seriously ghosting me? You're a grown man. Act like it. She still didn't get it. Not yet. But she would. Because I had a plan. And it started long before she ever said Caleb's name. See, I knew something was off when Olivia began staying out late, working with her new marketing team. She claimed she was trying to help the company I'd invested in. She even made me sign off on the expenses, just until we scale, she'd said, flashing that fake soft smile she'd been perfecting for months. But one thing about liars, they always miss the details. Her car's GPS history still synced to my account. The security cams in our home, I never disconnected them after renovations. And her work phone, paid through my business account. She made the mistake of thinking I was a fool. But what she didn't know, what she never thought to ask, was that I'd seen the messages weeks ago. Caleb. The name kept popping up like a virus in her call logs. See, old friend. Margot. She was clever, but not clever enough. They met up at a hotel downtown. Not even discreet about it. She used our company credit card for champagne and oysters. I kept the receipts. And the night she came home with that smug little glow, telling me I looked tired and should maybe hit the gym like Caleb used to, I didn't flinch. Because the moment she idolized him, compared me to that piece of garbage she swore she'd never speak to again, I realized something. She never moved on. I was a placeholder. A safer, softer version of the man who left her broken. And now I was going to return the favor. But better. Because my silence would hurt louder than all her insults. She thought she still had power over me. That I'd stay, beg, compete with a ghost. But I wasn't going to fight for a woman who glorified her past while erasing our present. I'd already made my move. And she had no idea what was coming next. The morning after I left, I sat in my truck outside a diner off Route 9, nursing a bitter black coffee while her messages kept pinging. One after the other. At first angry, then sarcastic, then suddenly sweet. Typical Olivia. She never actually apologized. Just danced around guilt like it was beneath her. Really mature, Brad. Walking out like that. So what? You're ghosting me now? How Caleb of you. Come on, babe. Let's talk. You're overreacting. Overreacting. That word made my blood boil more than anything. I had screenshots, video clips, timestamps. I wasn't reacting. I was calculating. I'd been watching her spiral back into his orbit for weeks. Pretending to believe her, pretending not to notice the extra perfume, the long showers, the sudden change in passwords. I even watched her rehearse a phone call in the mirror once, like she was auditioning for sainthood. Hi, honey. I'm just at Whole Foods. Might be late. Don't wait up. Whole Foods didn't have rooms with king-size beds. That night, I made my first real move. I called my lawyer and told him to prepare the papers, divorce, asset freeze, and a clause to protect my business. See, Olivia thought she was clever, pushing her creative input into my company. She started showing up at team meetings like she belonged there, talking over my project leads, laughing too loud, like she was the star. She wasn't. She never was. She was the show. And now, the curtain was coming down. I headed back to the city late that evening, not to our home, but to the penthouse I used for business guests, a place she didn't know existed. I sat on the balcony and opened my laptop. Folder by folder, I compiled every piece of proof I had. I wasn't planning on yelling. I wasn't going to cry. No dramatic confrontation. Just exposure. Caleb was a ghost in our marriage. A ghost she kept feeding, kept comparing me to, like some twisted measuring stick. But she forgot. Ghosts don't haunt the living unless you invite them in. And she'd built a whole damn altar for him. As I watched the city lights flicker, my phone buzzed again. A new message. Brad, can we talk? Please. I'm sorry if I went too far. I didn't mean it like that. You know I love you. I stared at those words for a long time. Not because they moved me, but because they didn't. I didn't feel anything. Not hurt. Not anger. Just this numb sense of, you're too late. And that's when I knew. The moment she used Caleb's method on me 5 years ago, disappearing without warning, it shattered her. And now, I was doing the same. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about power. And silence speaks louder than any screamed accusation. I turned off my phone. Let her feel it. Let her sit in that silence and wonder how it feels to be left without a word. Because her reaction, when it finally hit, it was going to be priceless. 3 days passed. No calls. No texts. No replies. I went dark on every platform. Blocked her number. Blocked her family. Even had my assistant intercept any messages that might leak into my work line. Olivia was screaming into the void, and I wanted her to hear the echo of her own decisions. By day 4, she cracked. I woke up to an email titled, "Please, just talk to me." In it, she rambled for 3 paragraphs, saying things like, "I don't know what's going on with you. I think we both said things we didn't mean. You're blowing everything out of proportion." Out of proportion? I scrolled down to the attachments in that same inbox. Her hotel receipts. Her business dinner photos from a private Instagram account I had access to for months. A video clip, grainy but clear enough, from a hallway camera. Caleb's face. My jaw clenched, but I didn't feel broken. Just focused. Because the next part of my plan required precision. That evening, I invited her to lunch. Neutral ground. A clean cafe on the Upper West Side where the walls were white, and the silence between couples was louder than the coffee machines. She walked in wearing a tight beige dress and sunglasses like she was hiding from the paparazzi, not from the husband she'd betrayed. "Brad," she said with fake warmth, sliding into the seat across from me. "You look tired." "Still playing." I nodded. "Didn't sleep well." She smiled, like she thought she had an edge. "I'm glad you agreed to meet," she said. "I think we should talk things through. This weird phase we're in, it's not healthy for either of us." Phase. She really thought this was a phase. "Sure," I said casually. "Let's talk." I reached into my bag and slid a small envelope across the table. She hesitated, then picked it up. Inside, photos, receipts, hotel check-ins, the grainy hallway shot. Her face when she pulled out the last one, Caleb's hand on her waist as they exited a suite, was something I'll never forget. She didn't blink, didn't cry, just folded the envelope back up slowly and whispered, "You really went through all this trouble?" And there it was. No apology, no shame, no denial, just annoyance that I caught her. "I didn't go through trouble," I replied. "You left a trail like a breadcrumb maze for children." Her jaw twitched. "You've been following me?" "No," I said, sipping my espresso. "You've been performing. I just decided to be the audience for once." The silence hung between us, sharp as glass. "You're really going to throw everything away over this?" she hissed. I leaned forward. "You threw it away the moment you put him above me." She stared, eyes calculating. Cold, like she was already plotting her next manipulation. But for the first time, I wasn't playing defense. I was dismantling the game. "I already filed for divorce," I said calmly. "You'll be served next week. The business is locked, the assets frozen. And that apartment? You'll be out in 10 days. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Her lips curled slightly. "You're making a mistake," she said. I stood up and threw down a 20. "No, I'm just finally done pretending you weren't one." The look in her eyes as I walked out of that cafe wasn't shock. It wasn't even sadness. It was insult, like I'd just taken away her favorite toy. She wasn't used to this. Olivia thrived on control, emotional leverage, dramatic fights, big breakdowns followed by calculated vulnerability. That was her game. She needed you to feel sorry for her even while she stabbed you in the back. But this time, she had nothing to hold on to. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply presented the facts and let her sit with them. She couldn't twist that into her usual narrative. Later that night, my phone lit up again. Different number. Unknown. You really think you can just erase me like that? I blocked it instantly. Then another message came. This one from Caleb. Caleb, we should talk. Man to man. That made me laugh out loud. Man to man. From the same guy who wormed his way back into my wife's life like a snake in a garden? I didn't respond. I wasn't about to give either of them the satisfaction of a reaction. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, logged into my business account, and watched Olivia's name disappear from the employee registry. She'd never officially worked for the company. No paperwork, no paychecks. Just influence. Presence. The illusion of relevance. Now, gone. I took the rest of the evening off. Ordered dinner. Watched a documentary I'd put off for months. Slept 8 uninterrupted hours for the first time in years. But by morning, the chaos resumed. Her sister called me, twice. Then her mother. Then a mutual friend, sounding concerned. Brad, what's going on? Olivia says you vanished and cut her off. I kept it simple. We're done. She knows why. I didn't know anyone more than that. And yet, Olivia wouldn't stop. By day 6, she was knocking at the penthouse door. I stood behind the peephole, watching her look around nervously. Her makeup was immaculate, but her eyes were tired. She held a bag in one hand, probably filled with some dramatic prop, like an old photo album or my hoodie she couldn't sleep without. Classic Olivia. She knocked again, softer this time. Brad, please. Can we talk? I didn't move. I didn't answer. She stood there for 2 full minutes. Then 3. Then left. Later, she texted. You're hurting me for no reason. I've said I was sorry. What more do you want? But she never actually said sorry. And that was the point. What she wanted wasn't forgiveness. It was restoration of her control, her narrative, her grip on me. But the grip was broken. She'd spent our whole marriage comparing me to a ghost, never realizing I was the one actually building something real while she lived in the past. And now, she was just a shadow. A loud, desperate, fading shadow. A week passed. The silence from my side. It was louder than any argument she could have thrown at me. That's when the smear campaign began. She posted a long, emotional message on her Instagram story. A black screen. White text. The kind that begs for sympathy without giving any actual details. When someone you love turns their back on you without explanation, you question everything. I guess some people don't know how to communicate like adults. But I still wish them peace. Classic Olivia. Always the victim in her version of events. The comments flooded in. You deserve better. Stay strong, queen. Men are trash. I didn't reply. I didn't even care. Because behind the scenes, her empire was collapsing. I had unfrozen the business accounts, just long enough to reassign ownership, cut her out of access, and send a quiet legal notice confirming her complete removal. No threats. No drama. Just clean execution. I'd built a new foundation while she was busy chasing a memory. Caleb was no businessman. He couldn't offer her what she thought she had with me. Stability, status, a future. But now, with her bridges burning, she was trying to crawl back over the ashes. One evening, I checked my emails and found a new message from her. The subject line said, I still remember who we were. I clicked. There was no body text. Just an attached photo, one from our honeymoon. We were on a boat in Santorini. She had her head on my shoulder. I was smiling like a fool. I stared at it for maybe 10 seconds, then deleted it. Because the truth is, she didn't remember who we were. She remembered who I was. The guy who gave, who protected, who forgave too easily. And now that version of me was gone. A few days later, a mutual friend told me she tried showing up at one of my business events. Claimed she was on the list. Tried using my last name like a badge. Security turned her away. She called that night, from a different number again. Left a voicemail. I don't know who you are anymore. You've changed. You used to fight for us. Now you won't even speak to me. No, Olivia. I used to fight for us. You were always fighting for him. The version of love you built around Caleb. The drama. The power games. The constant comparing. I was never in a marriage. I was in a competition I didn't sign up for. And once I stopped playing, it all crumbled. Funny how that works. I poured a drink, sat back on my balcony, and watched the city lights again. They looked different now. Like the static had cleared. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't second-guessing a text, a tone, a lie disguised as a compliment. I was just free. And she was exactly where she deserved to be. On the outside, knocking up by the end of the second week, Olivia stopped knocking. But that didn't mean she gave up. It just meant she shifted tactics. I was in a meeting when my assistant walked in, looking uncomfortable. "There's someone here," she said carefully, "who says she's your wife." I didn't even look up from my laptop. "Tell her my schedule's full for the next year." Later that night, I found a letter slid under the door of the penthouse. Handwritten. Her perfume. Dramatic cursive. I didn't read it. I threw it away, unopened, because I already knew what it said. It would start with, "I just needed closure," transition into, "We both made mistakes," and end with some twisted version of, "I still love you." But Olivia didn't love me. She loved winning. She loved being desired, chased, idolized, like he had done for her in the beginning. And when Caleb vanished, she needed a new worshiper. She picked me, and I played the role until I woke up. Now she couldn't stand that I wasn't coming back. But her final play? It was bold. I got a call from one of my board members the next day. Apparently, Olivia had tried to set up a meeting, claimed she had important intel about my finances, tried to make it sound like I was hiding something. I laughed when I heard that. She was trying to smear me now? I sent my legal team a quick note. Add defamation clause to divorce filing. Let's make it airtight. She underestimated me again. But I didn't just want to beat her. I wanted her to realize she was never even in control. Not for 1 second. So I called Caleb. Blocked number. One call. One message. Just enough to plant the seed. "Congrats, man. She's all yours again. But be careful. She kept comparing you to me." Then I hung up. He didn't call back. But I knew he would crack. Olivia had built this perfect fantasy of Caleb in her mind. A myth, not a man. The moment she realized he couldn't live up to the pedestal she'd placed him on, it would collapse. And it did. 3 days later, I got a voicemail from her. She sounded drunk. Maybe broken. "He's not you, Brad. I was wrong. I didn't know what I had." Finally, the truth. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like closure. I poured myself a drink, opened my laptop, and finalized the last set of documents for the divorce. Done. Legally, emotionally, financially, done. The storm had passed, and I didn't just survive it. I walked out untouched. And the woman who used to hold my heart? She was just another chapter now. One I would never reread. 2 days after I filed the final set of divorce documents, Olivia showed up one last time, at my office. Bold as ever. She was dressed to kill. Black heels. That fitted blazer I once bought her for a pitch she never actually gave. Eyes full of storm, lips curved in that fake, charming smile she wore like armor. My receptionist buzzed me. "She's here," she said, voice tight. I didn't even look away from my screen. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." I did. She's still sitting in the lobby. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. At exactly the 30-minute mark, I walked out. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I wanted her to see me. I stepped into the lobby like she was just another stranger. She stood, all rehearsed confidence, like this was some scene from a rom-com she'd scripted in her head. "Brad," she started, "we need to talk." I tilted my head. "About what?" "There's nothing left to say." She stepped closer. "You don't just get to walk away. You were my husband. We built a life." I stared at her, unimpressed. "You built fantasies. I built the life. You just moved in." She blinked. That one landed. "Don't do this," she whispered, lower now, trying to reel me back into her performance. I leaned in, voice calm. "Do what? Tell the truth? Face the facts? Own my peace." "You're not even angry," she snapped. "You're just empty." "No, Olivia," I said with a dry smile. "I'm free." She stared at me, silent, but her eyes were wild with panic. She thought she could come here, flash old memories like they still had power, and I'd fold. But this wasn't a fairy tale. It was the end of one. "I made mistakes," she said, trying a softer tone now. "But I didn't think you'd shut me out completely. You weren't like that. You were always forgiving." I interrupted. Easy to manipulate, willing to overlook every lie for the sake of us. Her jaw tensed. "I learned," I said, "from you. And from Caleb." That name. It still hit her like a slap. "I used the same method he used on you." Silence. No closure. Just gone. She looked like she might cry, but I knew better. Olivia didn't cry unless someone was watching. I pulled the divorce packet from my briefcase and handed it to her. "You don't have to sign now, but the deadline's in 2 weeks. If you want to avoid court, I suggest you read it." She didn't take it, so I placed it on the nearby table and walked away. And as I turned the corner, I heard her whisper behind me. "Caleb left me." But you destroyed me. I stopped, but didn't look back. I know, I said. And then I left her there, surrounded by silence, her own reflection, and the weight of what she'd finally lost that I didn't see her again after that day in the office. Not in person, at least. But I felt the aftershocks, quiet ones. Friends drifting away. Invitations that stopped coming. Whispers and circles we used to share. Olivia had always been the social flame. Now she was smoke. 2 weeks passed. The deadline arrived. She signed. No fight. No fanfare. No dramatic monologue. Just her signature at the bottom of the document, mailed back in a plain manila envelope. The same way she used to pack my lunch when we first got married. Back when everything still felt like it mattered. And that was it. My lawyer called and confirmed. It's final. You're officially free. I thanked him, hung up, and stared out the window for a long while. Waiting, I guess, for that emotion, that sting, something, anything. But there was only peace. Not joy, not revenge, just clarity. I spent that night alone. No drinks, no distractions, just my thoughts. I thought about who I was before her, who I tried to become for her, how I twisted myself into something smaller, softer, more understanding, just to meet her impossible expectations. I remembered how often she used Caleb's name like it was scripture, how she made me feel like a substitute teacher standing in for a mythic legend. And yet, I gave her everything. But it was never about being better than him. It was about being enough for someone who didn't even know what love looked like. That's what finally hit me. She didn't betray me because of who I was. She betrayed me because she couldn't love anyone who didn't hurt her. Chaos was her comfort zone. Stability made her restless. Respect bored her. I was never her second choice. I was her rebound from disappointment. A Band-Aid she ripped off the moment her old wound started itching again. I took a deep breath and stepped outside onto the balcony. The air was cold, sharp, but clean. The city lights blinked like stars trapped in glass towers. I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't angry. I was just done. Done mourning someone who never really existed. Done chasing answers from a person who only ever gave performances. And most of all, done letting someone else define my worth. If I had one thing to say to anyone reading this, it's this. If someone constantly compares you to their past, leave. You're not a repairman for their broken dreams. You're not a character in their nostalgia. You deserve someone who sees you, not a shadow of someone else. And if they ever come crawling back, don't slam the door. Leave it open, so they can see what peace looks like when they no longer have the key. Because the best revenge isn't rage. It's silence, and a life rebuilt without them in it.